This is the limitless Keith Lee.
This is Brody King.
This is Angel Garza.
Will Ospreay.
Hornswoggle.
Pentagon Jr.
The villain, Marty Skell.
The Mexican Ray Phoenix.
King Ricochet.
Concrete Rose, Sunny Kiss.
And I'm here to ask you to stop what you're doing, take just one moment, and bask in the glory of the busted wide open.
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 Boston Wide Open.
Busted wide open podcast.
You're listening to the Busted Wide Open podcast, dropping the elbow on the hottest topics in sports entertainment and the world of professional wrestling. With your hosts, Nick Howell and Sir Ian Dangerous. Coming to you from the Orbital Jigsaw Network Arena in sunny Southern California. Welcome everybody to BWO Live, coming to you from Twitch. This is the Patreon bonus episode for March 2021. My name is Nick Howell.
And I am Sir Ian Dangerous. And Nick, do you know what time of year it is?
It's the first week of spring.
No, it's WrestleMania season.
Oh, right, yeah.
It's WrestleMania season, baby. It's not spring, it's not summer, it's WrestleMania season.
No more roadblocks or fast lanes to get
through?
No
roadblocks, no fast lanes, no swinging, dangling great balls of fire. No, we are on the path to WrestleMania. And being that that is the time frame that we are in, Nick, I thought it was only appropriate that we celebrate WrestleMania.
Apropos, one might say.
Apropos, if you will, that you and I celebrate by doing a little bit of a WrestleMania special.
I like that idea.
And something we don't do often enough around here, and it's a very popular concept, and that's top lists. Top 10, top 5, top 8, top 13 lists, whatever. We don't do enough lists around here, and the people love the lists.
Yeah,
Nick,
we are the people's show, so we need to make the people's lists.
We got the eyebrows to show it. Look at that.
I can't do
that.
that.
Look at that people's eyebrow. That's right. You can be Stone Cold. I'll be the Rock. I got it. I'm very electrifying. So we're gonna do a list today. We're gonna do initially we were gonna do a top 10 list for WrestleMania best matches, and then a top 3 worst WrestleMania matches. And you and I were each going to come up with our lists. But we realized once we reconvened that it would be way more exciting to do a competitive picking of our top 5 best WrestleMania matches, and then just discuss some other good ones.
Yeah.
But we had to compete. We're going to roll off to figure out, and you can't pick the same one as me. We're going to have competitive top 5 lists for the best WrestleMania matches, and then competitive top 5 lists for the worst matches in WrestleMania history, of which there are a lot.
That was much easier to choose from than the best.
Man, there's a lot of bad WrestleMania matches, but also a lot of good WrestleMania matches too. So it's going to be fairly exciting all the way around. I hope, because we're going to be sitting here trying to poach some of the best / worst matches off of each other before the other one uses it. And then we're going to get to the end and be like, crap, where are those matches? Why are they not in the list? And then we'll talk about those as well.
Yeah.
So
by the end, we'll have collectively 10 best and 10 worst WrestleMania matches of all time. Is that what
correct?
That's the goal.
Yes. Yeah, and one thing that would be fun actually sometime this WrestleMania season would be to get together and actually have like a Discord watch-along party and go to each of these matches. But while we still have the network before it becomes impossible to view things on Peacock and they start deleting half of these things for being offensive, a chance to go and actually watch some of these matches before and chat about it in Discord and kind of live tweet along with it. That'd be kind of fun too.
Yeah.
But no, on this show specifically, Nick, you and I had to go and find a whole bunch of the best WrestleMania matches of all time. 36 years of WrestleMania at this point?
Yep.
My God, 36 years of WrestleMania. So lots to choose from.
Well, no business to do because this is our Patreon bonus episode. But Kyle Cotton just threw in 100 bits and said, "You just made the list." I see what you did there.
We didn't yet. We're about to make the list.
Yeah.
Yes. And then at the end of the episode, we can all scream at each other like Chris Jericho.
Thank you.
It'll be awesome. I don't have my notepad, like the big like the whatever that was, the steel notepad thing he had his list on. Yeah, you've got like one of those spiral bound.
I still write in
college
spiral notebooks.
notebook.
This is like all of my work notes and like every day. I have to handwrite stuff or I'll forget it.
I've never had a spiral notebook that didn't get crimped at one end, and then like you just like the paper all gets caught up there. I hate them. But Nick, you and I both have our dice.
We do.
At the ready, like true nerds. We have our 20-sided dice. We will be rolling for initiative. Who can go first in each round, because it will be competitive.
Yes.
But Nick, I see no reason why we should dawdle any longer. Let's get into this. Let's begin with the negativity, and then we'll end with the positivity.
Yeah. Let's
start off with the worst matches in WrestleMania history.
All right, so I guess we need to do a roll-off to see who is going to pick their match first.
Their number 5
Their number
first.
5.
The fifth, 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth worst.
Count us down,
WrestleMania
sir, Ian
match.
Dangerous.
All right, 3, 2, 1. I have a 15.
I have a 12. Close, but you take the first pick.
I do take the first pick. I noticed something very awkward. If you're not watching us on Twitch right now, or if you don't watch the Twitch stream back, it's really awkward looking when we shake these dice, because it looks like we're really furiously masturbating while we're preparing to roll. And it's very
That's
odd.
not how I look when I'm masturbating.
Well, I don't know how you look when you're mad. I'm saying that's you look like you are.
Where's my foot? I'm gonna put it in my mouth.
All right. What, are you looking in the mirror to check how you look when you masturbate? I know
Every time.
how I
You
look
don't?
when I masturbate. I got nothing. All right. So the number 5, the fifth worst WrestleMania match of all time.
According to Sir Ian Dangerous.
According to me, this is my personal least favorite. I hate it. I could actually make my entire top 5 all Ultimate Warrior matches at WrestleMania, because I just loathe Ultimate Warrior, especially at WrestleMania, where he just, he gets blown up and then he doesn't deserve to win. And it's especially the Randy Savage one, the Hulk Hogan one. I'll leave those off the list. I could easily go for Ultimate Warrior versus Triple H, which was a horrific squash that saw him just completely no-sell the pedigree. But I'm going to say Ultimate Warrior versus Hercules from WrestleMania 4.
I did not have that one on my list.
There's really, if you know Ultimate Warrior and you know Hercules, you basically have two dudes that can barely move, that get blown up, that just are, you might as, if you took two action figures and just had them kind of like clop together, you would have a more exciting match than this.
I've got one of those kind of matches on my list.
Oh, indeed. Well, I will let you take the, I'll take you. It's your turn. You may take the number 5 slot, the Nick's 5th worst.
Good Lord.
WrestleMania match.
How
do
I pick? And I'm trying to I'm trying to make sure that I save my worst of the worst for the top 1 or 2.
Exactly. It's gonna be a war when we get to there.
Okay, this one hit me on a personal level, so I'm gonna put it at number 5 because it's not one of the worst of the worst, but it's bad. Sheamus versus Daniel Bryan in the 18-second match.
28,
27, 28, I believe.
It was 28, yeah.
For Sheamus to get the title, and I was the World Championship at the time, and
he won the Royal Rumble for that. Sheamus won the Royal Rumble to have a 17-second match with Daniel Bryan,
with arguably one of the best workers in the history of wrestling.
Are you freaking kidding me?
Yep. And we like this was pre-Daniel Bryan super rise for WrestleMania 30 a few years later. Like this was, we were all excited to see Bryan Danielson in WWE. We wanted to see, this was amazing. Like I was so hyped. This was
really
this was about the
road,
time.
Yeah.
This was about the time I came back into wrestling as well.
Welcome back.
And this was the welcome back I got. So yeah, Sheamus versus Daniel Bryan at 28 in the 18-second match. So that was my number 5.
All right. That's one that I definitely look back on and shake my head. I think a lot of people do, given what Daniel Bryan has become for the company after that.
Yep, totally.
And what Sheamus has become. Obviously a great worker in Sheamus, but both of them deserve more than 17 seconds.
Agreed.
All right, sir. Round 2/4th worst WrestleMania match of all time. Let's masturbate off here and see see who gets the initiative.
Fell off the
Oh,
desk.
I got a 4.
Rerolling, sorry.
I think you're pretty safe. I have a 4 over here.
Not too safe, but I got a 6.
That'll still get it for you.
That gets
What is
it
your
done.
number? Your 4th worst.
Because
the whole time.
also it is not the worst. I'm saving those so I can spend those. I'm going to say, oh man, this one's tough between these two.
There's so many to choose from.
Razor Ramon versus Bob Backlund at WrestleMania 9.
What?
Yep.
Interesting.
It was a terribly executed 4-minute match. Bob Backlund was not in his former era
his
form.
Nope.
It was Razor Ramon, the bad guy who was a big up and comer. Backlund looked terrible. I mean, under the backdrop of WrestleMania 9, arguably being one of the worst WrestleManias ever. Like it was a stinker of a match. So that's I've got some other ones that I'm saving for my top 3, but that is one that I'm going to put that one down as my 4th worst ever. It was a crap match.
It's funny. I've got 15 matches to choose from
I've got
lined up here
14.
just to okay. That one was nowhere on my list.
Yeah.
So that's actually wild you picked that one out of there. Interesting. All right. Fair enough. I guess it's my turn then. Number 4 for me, Butterbean versus Bart Gunn. WrestleMania 15.
I didn't have that one.
The culmination of the Brawl for All. Bart Gunn.
That's right.
So the abortive, horrific, slight foray from WWE into shoot fight territory, and they actually had a series of boxing matches, a boxing tournament. There was a whole Vice Dark Side of the Ring on this, and it's well worth checking out because it's just, you sit there aghast at the stupidity of the whole thing and then the pettiness of the WWE when the guy they wanted to win, because they're an organization based around a worked finish to a match, and then they finally have something where you're going to have shoot finishes, and then they want a guy to win. They want Dr. Death Steve Williams to win the whole thing as a way to promote him. But when he gets taken out by injury and Bart Gunn ends up shocking the world and having a sick punch and knocking dudes out and going on and winning the damn Brawl for All, they were so mad at Bart Gunn for winning a shoot competition that at WrestleMania, they put him in the ring with journeyman, real life heavy hitter Butterbean, and Butterbean murders this guy. And what's funny is Butterbean later would say, look, if Bart Gunn came out with the kind of brawling fight that he was doing in the Brawl for All, he might have had a shot at me, but he tried to box me. He's not a boxer. I'm a boxer.
Yeah.
And he just went right through Bart Gunn's defense and knocked him out. And Bart Gunn, boom, end of his push, end of his time in WWE. He was gone within a year.
It's Rocky doing the match with Hulk Hogan or Thunder Lightning or whatever the hell his name was. Thunder Lips. Thank you.
Only that was somewhat worked. That was a pseudo worked match as well. So that was not even accurate. This was WWE management putting one of their superstars, and at the time just one of their wrestlers, out there to be murdered because they got embarrassed. It was petty. It was stupid. It wasn't even really a match. The only thing that I can say that's good about it is that, it's exciting to watch Butterbean just murder a dude, but you feel bad for Bart Gunn. It was a bad idea to begin with. The whole thing was just an atrocity. So Butterbean versus Bart Gunn at WrestleMania 15 is my number 4 worst match in WrestleMania history.
That one was not on my list either.
Well,
interesting that as many as we've listed, we don't have the crossover. I expected more of that.
We should throw out all the rest of our list after we're done with this, just to see what else we had.
That's true.
Yeah.
So here we go.
Our little dishonorable mentions. But number 3, Nick,
we're getting onto the podium now.
Ready? Yes. All right. Getting up on the lowest tier of the podium. 1, 2, 3. Roll that dice, and I've got a 14 over here.
I've got a 5. You take away. Take it away.
All right. Number 3. This one is a close one for me. I'm initially in this spot. I had the Hell in a Cell match between Undertaker and Big Boss Man, but I'm actually going to take this out as I look down my list because a far worse match. A match that was actually worse, and it didn't have the kind of historical humor that you can look at the Hell in a Cell, the dog kennel match.
Right.
with
I had
Undertaker,
that one
Big
on my
Boss
list
Man.
too, but it was up there for my number 4, and that's what I struggled with on choosing that one. But I had to pick Backlund. I had to give it the edge. One, it was a Hell in a Cell match. I dig Big Boss Man, but the hanging at the end and whatever with all the minions,
awful.
it's awful television.
But I have a worse one.
Okay.
That I'm actually going to take that one out. It's going to go on dishonorable mentions.
Yeah.
I have to pull this one into the slot.
Okay.
Mr. T versus Rowdy Roddy Piper, WrestleMania 2, in a another quote unquote boxing match.
They tried to recreate Rocky.
Yeah, they tried to recreate Rocky.
Yeah.
And it was an atrocity.
Yep.
It looked terrible. Piper throwing out some racial stuff in his promos before this was awkward. Like, it was just, there's nothing more to say. It was awful. It wasn't really a wrestling match. At least it wasn't a shoot fight, but Mr. T, I don't think fully knew that he was like what exactly wrestling was, even at that point, even though it had been a few years.
I love wrestling, fool.
Yeah. So, and as much as I love Piper, one of my favorites of all time, man, did he have some stinkers when it came to matches over the years. But so my number 3, Mr. T versus Rowdy Roddy Piper from WrestleMania 2. What about you, sir? What is your third worst match in WrestleMania history?
This one's tough.
You're right on the cusp of the big ones.
I am, and I know what I want those two to be.
Me too.
And I fear that you're going to pick them as well.
It's going to get
So
ugly.
I'm going to go out on a limb for number 3 here. Boogeyman versus Booker T at WrestleMania 22, where Charmel had to basically, I forget if it was a kiss or she had a mouthful of worms.
There was a mouthful of worms with an exchange.
Yeah. There was fluid exchange between Boogeyman.
There was the exchange of oral meat when it in this match, and frankly, that's actually the reason why it's not on my list anywhere.
I am convinced that Vince McMahon is the only one that truly thought the Boogeyman was something of note.
No, I disagree. A lot of people dig the Boogeyman. I actually dig the Boogeyman too.
As a visual, but not as a wrestler.
Oh no, as a wrestler, no. Oh God, no.
Yeah.
No. He's always been just a gimmick.
Yeah.
But it's a great gimmick, and that dude lives that gimmick.
Yeah, he does.
No, I love me some Boogeyman, so I can't put this on my worst list. But fair enough. If eating worms is not your thing, I can totally see that would be on there. Oh,
what about you, Ian? What makes it? Oh no, you did. We got to roll again. You did your number 3 already.
I did my number 3. It was Piper versus
Mr. T.
Yeah, so we are back to number 2. So we're back to looking like we're jerking off on our Twitch stream.
You don't have to say that every time for the next 10 picks.
I keep looking down at the visual of the arms going, and it's just it's just bad. It's just bad.
I'm
people.
right-handed. My dice is in my left hand, so.
Well, mine's in my right hand because I'm consistent. 1, 2, 3, 17.
5.
Oh, destruction!
I'm saving it for the best ones.
You save it for the number 1. Well, I hope so, because I'm stealing this one. Taker versus Giant Gonzalez from WrestleMania 9. You knew this had to be here somewhere. What more need to be said? Giant Gonzalez was never going to be a good wrestler, whether he was in WCW as El Gigante, whether he was in WWE with that stupid airbrushed bodysuit with the hair on the crotch and the shoulders. What the hell kind of visual was that? If you look down Undertaker's streak, he's got a bunch of stinkers, whether it's the Boss Man, whether it's King Kong Bundy.
For every one that he's got, there's like 2 or 3 absolute stinkers.
Oh, just stinkers. And this is the worst of them all. Where Gonzalez tried to knock him out with chloroform, and that still didn't work. But chloroform almost ended the streak because this guy couldn't wrestle that, and even Undertaker couldn't work him to a good match. Granted, it was early in Undertaker's career before he was really, I think at his full strength.
Was that 15?
But
what was that?
That was 9. 9. It was at 9. Yeah. So again, what a stinky stinky WrestleMania 9 was.
Yeah, it was.
Did have the greatest play call of all time. Mr. Perfect on the play call saying, look at this. They're stealing my moves. They're wrestling this match perfectly. Greatest ever. But all right, that means it's time for your number 2. Wait a minute. That sounds weird. It means it's time for you to pick your number 2 slot for the worst WrestleMania match of all time.
So you left this wide open for me, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
You son, don't you steal my number 1.
WrestleMania 27.
You son of a bitch!
Michael Cole versus Jerry the King Lawler. Why? Why? Why do you insist on having someone who has, I don't think he's ever wrestled, even with frosted tips back in the days of the Rock. He's a commentator.
They're announcers.
This is one of the dumbest ideas in the history of WWE. It was executed as such. They were way past any potential prime era of the late 90s that they could have pulled something off here. What in the hell were they thinking? And it's just,
I don't know how I beat this. That was my number 1. I was leading it like you've actually screwed me right now. That's there's nothing even close to that in my opinion.
Well,
as far
I've
as
got
the
one.
worst WrestleMania. You have one worse?
Yeah, I have one worse.
I'm shocked. To me, there's nothing close. This is a apocalyptically bad match, and it was 11 minutes long. Like, at least there are some really, like we were saying, Warrior versus Triple H or Sheamus versus Daniel Bryan. Those were squashes. At least they were over quickly. This was not quick.
No.
This was not easy. It did not use lube. It just held you down and did things to you for 11 minutes. This is one of the worst matches in the history of WWE.
Yeah.
Let alone WrestleMania. Absolute abortion.
Yeah.
Cole versus Lawler.
Well, let's hope you roll. Let's hope you roll first here.
1. Oh my God. Now I'm all fired up again. Jesus.
Stop
all right.
saying them in the chat. Giving them away. Don't help.
No,
it's supposed to be a friendly competition here.
Help me. I need help, chat. What could possibly be worse than that?
All right, count us down.
1, 2, 3, for all the marbles. I got a 13. Hopefully lucky number 13.
I got a 4.
Oh, thank God. All right, this is going to be, man, you took my Cole away from me. You know what? All right, I will take another one and say Tori Wilson versus Candice Michelle in a Playboy pillow fight is going to be my worst match in WrestleMania history. It should be Cole versus Lawler, but I'm gonna have to go for it. I mean, do I need to explain it more than the fact that it's called a Playboy pillow fight?
No comment.
I'm assuming you liked it because Tori Wilson was in a bra and panties and hitting another woman with a pillow.
I was in a different place in my life. Okay.
We all were. It was WrestleMania 22.
Right. 2002, 3.
WrestleMania 2000 was 19, so 2003. Yeah, I don't need to explain this any more than that.
Yeah.
It's a freaking pillow fight. It's exemplary of the Divas era. What an atrocity that was. Why it's being relegated to the dustbin of history. Why in so many ways WWE is trying to erase that it ever did stuff like this. It's hard to even call it a wrestling match. It just happened to be at WrestleMania, which is why I'm calling it that. Again, I'm desperate. I wish I could have used Cole and Lawler. Howell.
I'm gonna see your bet and raise you one.
Bring it on.
So I see your Playboy pillow fight, and I'm gonna raise you the Miss WrestleMania Battle Royale at 25.
That's really the only other option.
And it is it's one of the few things that sullies a rather amazing card that WrestleMania ended up being. We had Taker and Michaels. We had a couple of other really good matches on that. But first of all, to set this up and why it's my number 1, and you'll appreciate this, we had to endure 10 minutes of Kid Rock performing before the match. to lead all of the ladies in this battle royal out to like doing their little terrible dance moves and shaking their booties around to Kid Rock, right?
Ugh.
And then
I can't,
to make it
I can't
worse,
tell if that full body shudder I just got was because of Kid Rock or because I just got my second vaccine. But well, either way, I'm feeling gross.
to make it worse,
Kid Rock.
they tried to make this about the return of a bunch of legends. This was Beth Phoenix's To Lose was the scuttlebutt at the time. And
Unreal.
half of the divas that were in the match just bailed out. They just rolled out of the ring.
Yep.
I had heard this, and I went back to confirm it. It happened. If you watch it closely, half of them just roll out of the ring. They self-eliminate, all of this stuff, all to allow Santino in a skirt.
Santina.
Excuse me, Santina
His sister
Morella
Santina. Yes.
to win this.
Yeah.
It is arguably the worst thing that's ever happened at WrestleMania ever.
It's one of the most insulting things they've done to women in the history of WWE.
And that really amps it up is because it was to women during that terrible Divas era.
Yeah. First of all, none of you get entrances. You're all coming out to Kid Rock at the same time. Shake your ass.
Yeah, go out there and dance sexy to Kid Rock. Yeah.
Exactly. And then once they get to the ring, they have a half-ass match with no real booking. And it's going to be, and it's a Miss WrestleMania match, and it's won by a guy. Yuck, yuck, yuck. What a gag. Gotcha.
Oh, they didn't see that coming.
It's why when they had Santina come into, I think it was the second or third Women's Royal Rumble, it was such a great gag to have him come in and be like, what? And the women just throw his ass out.
Yeah.
A little bit of kind of winking rewriting of history. But at the time, yeah, this was an absolute abomination. So that's it. I think it deserves to be at your number one there, Nick. I'll allow it. Miss WrestleMania Battle Royale from WrestleMania 25, I think deserves to be there. So our top lists, Nick, you had at number 5, Sheamus versus Daniel Bryan from WrestleMania 28, Razor Ramon versus Bob Backlund from WrestleMania 9, Boogeyman versus Booker T from, what was that, WrestleMania 24?
2.
WrestleMania 22. 2.
Utah.
Give me 2. Cole versus Lawler from WrestleMania 27. You son of a bitch. And Miss WrestleMania Battle Royale from WrestleMania 25. My top 5, or my lowest 5, Ultimate Warrior versus Hercules from WrestleMania 4. Butterbean versus Bart Gunn from WrestleMania 15. Mr. T versus Rowdy Roddy Piper from WrestleMania 2. Taker versus Giant Gonzalez from WrestleMania 9. And Tori Wilson versus Candice Michelle at WrestleMania 22 for the number 1 slot. Look at us white knighting out here with the ladies' matches at the top. How dare they treat them this way?
I'm happy with those 2 lists.
You know what?
I had some you didn't. You had some I didn't. That was good.
I can live with that. Cole versus Lawler should be number 1 somewhere, but it's okay. I can live with it. What were some of your other dishonorable mentions, Nick? What are some other ones we got here?
Big Show versus Akibono at 21 in the sumo match.
Fully have that one on mine as well.
Why in the hell? I want to watch wrestling. I don't want to watch sumo.
As someone who's seen Akebono in an actual sumo match in Japan before this was disgraceful to him. I didn't want to see Big Show in a goddamn sumo diaper. There was a lot about this that was just wrong.
Yeah.
To Big Show's credit, he did his best to try to, ape some of the stuff in sumo, but this was not good at all. Yeah. I'm gonna throw in mine, another one of mine, Bret Hart versus Mr. McMahon.
Had that one. That was the next one for me.
Woo! Was this a stinker?
On the list of things that nobody ever asked to see.
No, we were good.
But we were fine. It had been long enough. It was kind of cool to see Bret Hart come back, but not in this way.
Not like this.
Not like this.
Not like this. Hulk Hogan versus Sid from WrestleMania 8. Excuse me, WrestleMania 8. Yeah. Just a garbage main event there.
Slow, dull, botched finish. And the thing that nobody really remembers is they had to pull out a rabbit out of their hats and do an improv DQ with Wimbledon, right?
Yep.
So it was a complete disaster, this match, after it was supposed to be built up to be pretty big. But
what else you got on your list there?
Goldberg Lesnar at 20.
Absolutely.
About the only thing that was redeeming about this, or that anybody wanted to see in it, was Stone Cold guest refereeing.
And giving them both stunners at the end.
And stunning them at the end, and that was about the best part.
And it was one of those matches where the dirt sheets kind of ruined the match, but it's not even. I can't even blame the dirt sheets. Everyone knew Lesnar was out the door.
Yeah.
So he was already getting heat and being told, no, hey, goodbye. And then, Goldberg's out here. He can barely work. Brock has no reason to work. Stone Cold's out there just trying to hold this shit show together. Yeah, that was, and considering the guys involved, that's pretty insane. This is one of the worst matches of all time.
Yeah.
At WrestleMania.
All the other ones I had, we've all covered them. You have any others?
I do. Baron Corbin versus Kurt Angle at WrestleMania 35. What an audaciously bad way to send off Kurt Angle. Even he's coming out and saying he hated it. It was a very workmanlike match. There's nothing like technically wrong with it. It wasn't why it wasn't on my list. Just Kurt wasn't at 100% anywhere near. Baron Corbin didn't do anything exciting. It's just a bad way to send off Kurt. Randy Orton versus Bray Wyatt, WrestleMania 33 in the Maggots on the Mat match. Just poorly worked match from two guys who shouldn't be working matches poorly. The gimmicks didn't work. It completely failed.
Yeah.
Complete fail. There's some other like smaller ones that I had that really, I mean, they're almost not even worth noting because they're just kind of small. Like Undertaker versus Big Show and A-Train from WrestleMania 19, which just was kind of another one of Undertaker's stinkers. Jake Roberts, George Wells at WrestleMania 2. Like the early WrestleMania 2 in particular had a bunch of stinkers.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the early WrestleManias had some stinkers just because history is not kind to some of these matches.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah. But that's my list. That's all of them. Nick, let's get out of this negativity.
Yeah.
We spent a half an hour bitching and complaining about stuff.
I got one page of negativity. Stuff. I got 3 pages of positivity.
Oh my, attaboy. Attaboy. I like to hear
Sean
that.
Clark will be happy to hear that.
I have so many notes about good matches too. Holy crap. All right, this one's going to get brutal though. Only 5 slots to fit all these good matches. Oh dear God, Nick, this is going to be brutal. All right.
We rolling off?
Are we doing this? Let's do it. For the number 5 slot. Here we go. 1, 2, 3.
Oh, I threw it.
Speaking of 3, I got a 3. I'm screwed.
I got my lucky number, my baseball number 19.
Oh my God. All right. I got blown out. On this.
Okay, I am gonna this one. I have to be strategic about this.
Yeah,
gotta do some strategery.
Strategery. Come on.
Oh man.
Stop keeping me in suspense.
I know what my top 3 matches are. I've always known what those are.
Yeah, and that's where it's going to get ugly because I probably have at least 2 of the 3.
Okay. Okay. Number 5 for me, the Money in the Bank ladder match at WrestleMania 21.
The first one.
The very first Money in the Bank match. It wasn't its own pay-per-view yet.
No.
And this was Edge, Christian, Shelton, Benjamin
in his prime. This is the one that made him legendary.
Yes. Chris Benoit, Kane, and Chris Jericho.
Yes.
So, I mean, it was, to me, it wasn't just the first ever Money in the Bank match. It wasn't the ladder match at WrestleMania kind of thing. We had that previously. But it was an all-star show of the 2000s. If you think about it, it was kind of an all-star cast match, and that's why I rate it so highly. You and I both think very highly of ladder matches. I love the stake of having a briefcase hanging. You had the this is frankly I think we had Edge and Christian, but I mean for the rated R superstar Edge, I feel like this is what really kicked him off. Because he went on a run after that. This is my top 5. There's 5 or 6 other matches I could have had on this spot.
Very first Money in the Bank ladder match, also one of the greatest cash-ins of all time with Edge.
Yeah.
But this was the match that, controversially for a while there, Chris Jericho was saying he invented, and everyone now has kind of come around and been like, yeah, he kind of did. Because it was initially called, I believe, the Golden Dream ladder match, and you could ask for anything you wanted if you wanted. And then Jericho said, well, why not make it, Money in the Bank, like you can cash in for the title at any time. Wouldn't that be more exciting? And they were like, yeah, actually, you're right. That does sound better. And so that's what it became. And now it's an institution.
Yep.
Now it's every year. Now they've booked themselves into a corner every damn year with this damn ladder match. But this is where it started. WrestleMania 21. I think that's a solid choice for number 5.
Yeah. Kyle threw in 100 bits on us, said WrestleMania and Final Fantasy, 2 brands in which we never talk about their first sequel.
Yes.
Agreed.
Except Final Fantasy 2. Well, I guess
2 was
Final Fantasy
crap. 3 was all right.
2 in the States was great. 2 in Japan was not great.
Fair point. I had forgotten about that.
Yeah, I think it's 4. 2 in the States was 4 in Japan, I think. And then anyway,
I don't remember.
Final Fantasy. I have not read up on my Final Fantasy history recently, so I'm sorry if I get those numbers a little wrong.
7 is where I started, but I did go back and play the previous ones.
Oh man, I started with 1, baby. I started all the way back.
Well, you got to start at number 5 now. So, what is your number 5 position on the best WrestleMania matches of all time?
This is gonna be tough.
Yep.
I'm gonna say Mick Foley. I need it on here. Mick Foley versus Edge at WrestleMania 22.
Yep. Funny enough, that was the very first one I wrote down for the record.
Really?
Yeah.
It deserves. So for me, as a Mick Foley fan, someone who was more of a fan of Edge when he was starting to become as big as he became, I was a fan of him with the Brood. I was a fan of him and Christian. They were the team I was rooting for in their ladder matches and TLC matches. This was the one where Mick did the work for Edge, where Mick had always wanted to have that WrestleMania match, and he just never had that WrestleMania moment, that WrestleMania match. And, the closest thing he had was being in WrestleMania 2000, which was terrible.
It's him still proving he's got that hardcore edge to him,
So pardon the pun. And he'd gone away. He'd supposedly retired, but then he'd come back. And one of the things that I think, everyone talks about what a hardcore legend Mick is and how great his promos were and how innovative his gimmicks were. But one thing I think needs to be spoken of more of Mick is his generosity.
Yeah.
There are few people in history who made their career at the highest level around putting other guys over and making them into main eventers. And that's what he did. He made The Rock into a main eventer. Undertaker was already a main eventer, but he solidified him. Guys like Shawn Michaels, guys like Vader, guys like Austin, guys like, Triple H, of course, I think I might have just said him, but Triple H is one of the biggest examples. In his original retirement stuff, like Mick made Triple H look like an absolute god. Like he could, But then again, here with Edge, this was the moment that Edge became a main eventer, was when he speared Mick through a flaming table at WrestleMania. Now one of the most
ropes,
iconic...
Tope Suicida, through the ropes.
Oh, Tope Suicida, through the ropes. One of the most iconic visuals of WrestleMania history, one of Edge's top 2 spears of all time.
One of the best WrestleMania spots, if you will, of all time.
Yeah. And in one moment, you've got Mick getting his WrestleMania moment and Edge finally cementing himself as being a big deal.
Yeah.
And, the two of them are really close friends as well, and they were at the time. And if you remember Mick being the general manager, the stuff that he and Edge and Christian were doing was just classic every episode. So this has to be on my list just because of my love for Mick Foley and what this meant for him and for Edge. So my number 5, Mick Foley versus Edge, WrestleMania 22.
Nice.
Off to a good start.
I like those two. Strong start with 2 solid 5 picks.
All right, so let's go for number 4. Get that roll ready, sir.
I
got
that
roll ready.
I got it.
Get that forearm.
I'm trying not to shake my arm so you don't see it.
What? I didn't say a thing. This makes you look like you're doing it on a very, very small axis there. 1, 2, 3, 11.
I got a 1.
Oh, critical failure, my son. Critical failure. That means I've got the initiative. And I'm going to have to go. Oh, man, so many options. So many options. I'm going to, you know what? I'm going to screw myself in the late running here. I'm going to give away. I was going to use this to screw you over and take one of the big ones, but instead I'm going to take a personal favorite of mine, probably one of my favorite moments watching a WrestleMania in a room, in a bar with hundreds of other people and everyone absolutely losing their damn mind. And this match is not on here because of anything technical. It's not on here because there was a good story building up to it.
I know where you're going.
It's on here because it is one of the most hair-raising, feels electrifying WrestleMania matches of all time. Of course, I'm talking about The Rock versus Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 18.
Yeah. It's documented as one of the loudest crowds in WrestleMania history.
Yes. And it's even today. I mean, it helps to watch it with a bit of context. Hogan had been heel for, I think, 8 years by that point.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there. He'd been heel for a while.
Yeah. Joined the NWO, all that stuff. Yeah.
And WCW had been bought by WWE at this point. The NWO had finally made its way over to WWE, and they were still heels. The Rock was a face, and Hogan, whether or not you believe the story that he kind of that this wasn't planned, that he made it up as he went along in this match, Hogan worked his way into becoming a face during this match.
Yeah.
And it started off as being face Rock versus heel Hogan, to Rock actually working heel by the end of this match.
Right.
Even though he was still a face, and he played as a face at the end, he still was working in the heel role, trying to get heat off of Hogan at the end of this match. That's how much Hogan turned the crowd in this match. It was insane. And it's an amazing, amazing match.
And another little fun fact about it that I wrote
just
down.
for the audience participation. Yeah.
Totally. You would have Rock hit rock bottoms and the crowd would cheer, and then you'd have Hogan hit a leg drop and the crowd would cheer.
They would, yeah. They were just doing every shtick in the book. And it's funny to think that originally what I think people had wanted was Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Hulk Hogan. And he ended up getting kind of a giveaway match with Razor Ramon with Scott Hall, in which Scott Hall gave one of the greatest stunner cells of all time.
Yeah.
But aside from that, was a completely forgettable match.
No, this Rock versus Hogan stole the show. Here's most people don't realize that it was not the main event of 18. Edge and Triple H were the main event. It completely undercut what should have been an amazing match.
Right. Those poor bastards had to follow this. And Triple H is working his slow plodding style after this match. Come on. Yeah, no, this is all that people assume this is the main event because it feels like one of the greatest main events in WrestleMania history. And I'm going to say it is. I'm going to say it's number 4.
Yeah.
What about you, sir? What you got for your number 4 over there?
Oh, God. You might hate me because it might be an Ultimate Warrior match.
What?
Yep.
I mean, hey, if you want to waste a slot, go right ahead.
That's what I'm doing.
Number
4, because it's not in my top 3, I've got to give it to the Triple Threat Tag Team TLC match. Edge and Christian versus the Hardys versus the Dudleys at WrestleMania 17.
Exactly.
Which
TLC
arguably,
2.
again, might be the best WrestleMania of all time. I'm going to make that statement tonight as well.
Strong case for that.
It is, you know what? There was something, I liked wrestling before I saw this match. After this, I loved wrestling. I was obsessed with wrestling. I went down the rabbit hole of CZW and ECW and all of the hardcore things, and I've never come back. Like that is a side of wrestling that I absolutely love. I mean, just all of the spots in this match. These guys went to town, and it was all capped off with the Edge spearing a dangling Jeff Hardy from the belts hanging.
The other most legendary spear he ever gave.
Jesus Christ, what a match. And if you have never watched WrestleMania 17, please go watch it front to back. It is one of the most epic shows ever. And you had this match in it, which it got a pay-per-view named after this match. Following this, it really just cemented these 3 tag teams as absolute legends in the professional wrestling business. And they're still relevant today, 20 years later.
And it's funny, Nick, because your top 2 there, your number 5, number 4, Money in the Bank and TLC, you tend to be fairly grumpy about the gimmick pay-per-views these days when they don't do it right. And here you have 2 of your favorite WrestleMania matches are the origins of those gimmick pay-per-views.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
It's an interesting observation. Yeah, I didn't think about it that way.
Yeah, but that's the thing. The other thing about this match that a lot of people forget, you're talking about forgetting that at 18. That Rock versus Hogan was not the main event. People forget in this match, it wasn't just the Hardys versus the Dudleys versus Edge and Christian. It was the Hardys with Lita versus the Dudleys with Spike Dudley versus Edge and Christian with Rhino. And actually the match was won with Rhino powering up a ladder with, I believe, Edge on his shoulders. Maybe it was Christian on his shoulders because Edge was dead. He powered him up the ladder on his shoulders. Great finish, great match, insane spots. Definitely, like, you can have an absolute war with people about which is better, TLC 1 or 2.
You had Jeff Hardy. That was the first time he had really done a super high swanton bomb. You had Bubba Ray Dudley falling out of the bleachers through 3 stacks of tables.
Yep.
Like, we had never seen anything like this before. And I remember just marking the out with all of my friends in the living room watching this. It was insane. It's my number 4. I promise you I'm going to have singles matches for my top 3.
I believe in you, Nick. Let's go for top 3 right now, then.
All right.
Let's roll the dice on 3, 2, 1. I got a 2.
13.
Oh, my goodness
Which
gracious.
puts me in a spot where I kind of have to do some strategery here.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Oh, God.
Oh,
Damn it.
boy.
Of all the times for my dice rolling skills to fail me, it's right when you can steal. You can steal on me. What are you going to do here, Nicholas?
Oh.
If that is really your name.
It is, but my mama only calls me that when she's mad at me.
Right. Nicholas Lebowitz Howell, what are you doing?
Leibowitz?
Yes.
No.
No?
No.
No? You sure?
No.
Okay.
Oh, God. How do I choose between my favorites?
You have to. How do you not have this paired?
Okay. Shawn Michaels versus Ric Flair at WrestleMania 24. The I'm Sorry I Love You Ric Flair retirement match.
I literally have that written in my 3rd slot in case I had won that role.
I'm flipping pages here, and I can't pick any of the other ones over that, and it's not worthy enough to be the top 2. It's got to be Michaels Flair, the I'm Sorry I Love You match at 24. Because, I mean, Flair was 59 years old. That man was 60 years old when he did that match, and it was a full-on Flair match. We got flops. He worked his ass off.
I mean, it was his last match. In his mind, it was his last match. Flair very much lives in the moment. He didn't know he was going to go to TNA after this and have a couple more matches. It was his retirement.
Or a woo-off with Jay Lethal.
Or a woo-off, which, by the way.
Amazing. Thank you for whoever posted. Kyle, I think it was you that posted that again. It's so good. When they start taking their clothes off, I just start laughing and I can't stop.
It's worth noting that this has to be one of the most emotional wrestling matches of all time.
Yeah.
I think that if we were to make another list, and maybe that would be one, that'd be a fun list episode to make, Nick, at some point in the future. Let me write that down, actually.
All right.
Most emotional wrestling matches of all time. The one that made grown men cry and grown women weep and children fall into puddles on the floor. This is one of those where it's hard to not get choked up. And it's so rare and so wonderful when wrestling really does inspire true, deep, passionate emotion other than just excitement, right? But like sadness, nostalgia, the feels, the capital F feels. This match is capital F feels. I'm Sorry I Love You, as Shawn Michaels is winding up that super kick to kick Ric Flair in the face.
It's even before that. Flair's saying, "Come on, end it." He's kneeled down on one knee.
I was getting to that, where he's like an old gunslinger. He's still got the hands up. He's crying already. He knows it's coming. He knows the finishing blow is coming. The last shot. And Shawn Michaels looking at him as Flair just knows he's got nothing left. He knows he's about to go down. And Michaels gives one of the most legendary off-the-cuff improv lines in WrestleMania history. I'm sorry. I love you. Super kick. Flair goes down, immediately sobbing on the ground as the 1, 2, 3. Shawn cradles his head, rolls out of the ring so that Flair can have the moment. Jesus Christ, they don't get better than that.
And I want to give a hat. We give him shit all the time. I want to give a hat tip to Kevin Dunn for not only that one, but for that period of time. WrestleMania 25, there were several matches. They're just brilliantly directed to give us that shot, that up close pull in shot. We had the wide of Flair going, "Come on, give it to me," and we pull in on Michaels at exactly the right time to catch that "I'm sorry, I love you" being mouthed. I mean, I want to give kudos where it's due, where it's deserved. That was fantastic.
Absolutely nailed it.
Yep.
Absolutely nailed it.
All right, sir. Ian, you're number 3, sir.
This is where it gets tough.
Yeah.
Because it is about, do I go with my emotional choices or do I go with what I consider a great technical wrestling match?
Yeah.
And I'm going to save some of the technical matches for my top slots because those are the ones I feel like stand the test of time. It's not just me having my own personal. I mean, I know this is my personal predilection list, but I want to get ones where I feel both. And I think I can defend most of the, like, I can't really defend Rock and Hogan as being a technical excellence match,
No.
but it's one of the greatest sports entertainment matches of all time.
Agreed.
And that's kind of the difference. My number 3 slot is kind of, it's right in between the two. It's a very well worked match. It's got 3 guys in it that are very good wrestlers and one who's arguably one of the best of all time. Actually, you could make an argument for any of these guys being on an all-time list in something. But it is from WrestleMania 30, Daniel Bryan versus Batista versus Orton. Again, like with Shawn and Rick, I'm kind of going with the emotional one on number 3, where Shawn and Rick was a very good match, but it's not going to win the greatest technical match of all time at WrestleMania.
No.
But dear God, that finish.
Yeah.
And the same thing with Daniel Bryan versus Batista versus Orton, where you have a very well-worked match. It's very exciting. The idea that Daniel Bryan gets taken out early, his shoulder is messed up because of his earlier match in the night with Triple H, which he had won to get to this match. The whole journey Daniel Bryan had been on, the build up to that, the feeling like he had lost his chance and now it was down to Randy Orton or Batista, Batista had come back to the Rumble and just been roundly rejected by the fans. And then having Daniel Bryan fight back from underneath, use the fact that Randy Orton and Batista were fighting against each other against them, and ultimately tap out Batista in the center of the ring, seemingly, using that heat that Batista had against him to make the story feel even better. Batista was on his way out again. He was like, cool, if you guys don't want me here, I'm going to go make millions of dollars in movies. Bye.
Yeah, he was actually set up to be the one that was going to main event WrestleMania, and the crowd went, no,
we want Daniel Bryan.
Daniel Bryan, and then they inserted this little plucky underdog into this whole picture, and it went nuclear.
And I would argue, Nick, it's one of the, if not the greatest WrestleMania build of all time. Build to match.
Yes.
And they
the whole
fell
Occupy Raw movement and all of that stuff they were doing. Brilliant stuff.
I mean, you could even argue the story goes back to Sheamus versus Daniel Bryan 17-second match, one of the worst matches of all time at WrestleMania.
3 years prior,
the story goes back that far. So it's...
Was that 3 years?
With the story, with the fact that the match lived up, it gave you exactly what you needed to tell that story. And then one of the greatest finishes to a WrestleMania ever afterwards. This is my emotional pick for number 3, for my number 3 slot. So,
well, I know exactly what my top 2 matches are.
So do I, and I have a feeling they're going to be the same.
Oh boy! So here we go.
For all the marbles, Nick. Number 2 slot.
Before we do, Kyle threw in 100 bits. It says, "I love the Mania 30 match, but doesn't it get penalized for being a cover of a match from a decade ago?"
No, it gets penalized. You can say it's penalized for that, but it gets covered by the build and by the finish being better than that match.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying there. And yes, I think he's referring to Benoit versus it was Benoit versus Triple H versus.
You talking about Mania 20 with HBK?
HBK versus Shawn. Yeah. And that was a great emotional moment.
Yep.
Daniel Bryan had a better build, and Daniel Bryan didn't kill his family.
So, if we removed what Chris Benoit became, the coronation with Benoit at the end with Guerrero coming out and all of that, absolutely an emotional moment for sure. I don't think it was a redux or a cover in any way. No, I do. It built very organically around Evolution and all of that stuff. I dug it.
But in terms of how the match was built as well.
Sure.
The match itself, the physical actual match itself was booked. It was very similar. I see why Kyle's saying that.
Yeah. That's a good point. I hadn't thought about it that way. That's a good point.
But one thing that I've always said when it comes to music, at least, is brilliance borrows, genius steals, right? And there's a lot of cover songs that a lot of people forget that All Along the Watchtower is a Bob Dylan song, not a Jimi Hendrix song. A lot of people don't know that Sweet Dreams are made, that Tainted Love is a cover, or that, a lot of people think Johnny Cash wrote Hurt. So it's all a matter of how you cover it.
Yeah.
If you can make it your own. And I think that WrestleMania 30's match stands on its own. Like I said, it's an emotional pick as well. So I'll stand on that.
There you go.
At the end of the day. Although I do have Michaels versus Benoit versus Triple H WrestleMania 20 on my list of honorable mentions. So I will throw that in there. Number 2,
we gotta
Mr.
roll.
Nick. 1, 2, 3, 11.
20.
Son of a bitch. God.
Crits with the 20. All right.
Damn.
So I know what my number 1 is, so I'm gonna throw my number 2 in here with all the gusto in the world.
Oh, I know what it is.
Well, I've said you know what my number 1.
I know what your number 1
my
is, so I
favorite
can
match
only
is,
assume
right?
what your number 2 has to be.
WrestleMania 13.
Son of a bitch, I knew it.
Bret Hart versus Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Damn it. So I want to point out something, Nick.
Yep.
Before we get into talking about how great this match is.
Yep.
That's twice in a row. With your number 2, you've taken my number 1. You utter bastard.
Yep. I win.
You completely throw me for a loop.
I love the rolling element of this. It makes it so much more fun. I hope you guys enjoy that too.
I hate it. I will never do this again. No.
It was first. It was a submission match between Bret Hart and a rising Stone Cold Steve Austin. He was still fairly new, but he was over as hell. Bret Hart was supposed to be, the biggest, baddest in the world, and I mean, just an absolute savage classic. We had crimson masks.
The Crimson Mask.
Exactly. This is the epitome to me of a heel versus a babyface, about as far distant as you could get from on the spectrum of heel versus. There was no like confusion about who was who.
There was. This was a double turn, Nick. That coming into this, Stone Cold Steve Austin was the heel and Bret Hart was the face.
I understand. It ended weird.
It
Well,
didn't
no,
end weird.
this the wrong one. I'm sorry. I'm thinking about the other one, 17. Sorry. This was
that's Austin Rock. This is when Austin comes in as a heel, and then by the end, between hitting him with the ring bell and putting him in the sharpshooter and everything else Bret Hart did to him, Bret Hart was the heel.
Yep.
And Austin was the babyface.
Refused to tap out. Made him the badass that he is.
In a pool of his own blood. That final, when he looks like he's passing out, that final push-up in the sharpshooter where he's just screaming and the blood is pouring down his face, into his mouth, over his teeth. That is one of the most iconic images in wrestling history across all brands and promotions and time periods. Austin raising up the last time in the sharpshooter. There was an iconic shirt that came out at the time, Blood from a Stone. That was all over the place. The Britt Baker just tried to copy it somewhat recently, and I could see the iconography is very similar, but also the psychology of this match, Nick. The way that they executed the double turn.
Yeah,
there's very rarely double turns in wrestling matches because it's so hard to execute and do it right. And unless it's completely organic, like you could argue WrestleMania 18 was sort of a double turn, but then they were both faces at the end. But just in terms of working the match, it kind of got flipped. This was an intentional double turn. And later on in that very same show, Hart came out to cement the fact that he was a heel and interfered in the main event.
Continued beat down after the match, like all of this stuff.
They made sure you knew Hart went heel.
Yeah.
And then he had a very good heel run after this. But this was definitely the flint that sparked the real explosion of Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yep.
And he
walked out with with that strut from this point on. Like he was there.
Yeah.
He had arrived.
Yeah. He knew he was the man.
My number 2. So Surrey and Dangerous, your number 2, please, sir.
Well, my number 2 is one that I think everyone can agree is one of the greatest wrestling matches of all time. One that was shockingly underrated by a lot of the wrestling media. But I think for any real WWE fan or wrestling fan, it's one of the most iconic and brilliant WrestleMania matches of all time. And that is Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania 25. That's it's the high watermark. The high watermark.
I want to know what your number 1 is, or if you're just being a dick and taking that one from me.
A little bit of both.
So let me X that off my list, you bastard. I don't know how many times I've said on the show it's my favorite wrestling match ever.
I didn't want to take the chance of it possibly losing me possibly losing the number one role, so I'm going to use it right now. So I have some other ones I can put in number one.
I'm running slim.
So,
Because now I'm going to sound like a jackass not putting that at number one.
I'm so sorry to hear that, pal. Shawn Michaels versus Taker from WrestleMania 25. Does this match need explanation? It's superlative. It's one of the best worked matches of all time. It's one of those matches where people complain about false finishes and kicking out of finishers, and this is one where every single time it's absolutely earned. You're on the edge of your seat the entire time. At this point, Taker's streak was a thing, so that was on the line as well.
And Jacob in the chat stole it from me. The first thing I was going to say, 26 after this, the year later, was the one that had the career match and the stipulations and the bigger build and all of that stuff. As a result of how this match surprised everybody, and it's Mr. WrestleMania versus the other Mr. WrestleMania. It's gonna be a baller match.
You had a 3-year trilogy.
Yeah.
You had Shawn Michaels versus Taker at WrestleMania 25, which was the original one that blew people's minds. 26, Shawn Michaels puts his career on the line, and everyone just assumed like that you genuinely didn't know. You're like, well, I mean, I guess Michaels could retire, but it's also Taker's streak. Like you really didn't know the next year. And then the year after that was Triple H versus Taker at 27. And actually, excuse me, it was a quadrilogy because at 28 was Triple H versus Taker in Hell in a Cell with Shawn Michaels as a special guest referee. And it was the end of an era match.
Yeah.
The one that they've since gone back to call end of an era match. So you had 4 years in a row, 2 Michaels, 2 Triple H's, all of which really what we should do, Nick, is say that the number one is all 4 of those matches together.
The story of the whole series.
That whole story is fantastic.
Yeah.
And whichever chapter you like, props.
Some notes that I wrote on this one.
Totally understood.
The 26 match had more stakes, but this was perfection. Larger than life gods.
Said. Yeah.
Just an absolute war with each other. They had 10 plus years of history. You could go back to the first Taker Michaels Hell in a Cell match in 97, I think, if I'm getting that right. Mm-hmm. So many false finishes. The emotions were high at the end. Him kicking out of a tombstone pile driver and then just basically setting himself up into the next one. Like this match is just there's nothing wrong with it. There's absolutely nothing wring with it.
You're right. It is a flawless match.
It did get match of the year that year from multiple outlets, including Wrestling Observer, and it is hands down for me. Before I even have to make a substandard pick for my number one, it is absolutely my favorite wrestling match of all time. Costanza resubbed with the tier 2 for 8 months. That means he gets some. Good. Woo! Thank you very much, Chris. Welcome back, man.
Thank you, dude.
Kyle threw in 100 bits, said 26 somehow gets more love because of the stakes, but the story and heaven and hell parallel just hits me right with 25. Although the 26 build is my favorite line, sometimes it's hell getting to heaven. From Taker when Shawn was helping JBL, also 5 years of HBK versus Taker, prologue in the years before's Rumble. Yeah, all of that stuff played into this.
The Rumble, the I need this match. Yeah, I agree. I think that the build for 26 was absolutely superlative. And if anyone wants to come along and say they like 26 better than 25, I'm not going to argue with them. This is completely like, do you like tea or coffee? Do you like pepperoni in your pizza or salami? Like, you know what? Either way works. Yeah. I'm just taking 25 because for me that one was it just worked better for me.
Yeah.
I like the origin stories.
Thank you, Kyle. Costanza also threw in 100 bits, said, sorry, I've been moving and dealing with a lot, but I'm finally back with my BWO fam.
Yeah.
Welcome back, sir.
Welcome back.
Thank you very much. Much love.
Congratulations on the move.
All right, Sir Ian Dangerous.
Oh, man. It comes down to this role. Who's going to get their substandard number one pick?
You son of a bitch.
Out first. You son of a bitch.
So my number 2 was your number 1?
Yes, and my number 2 was your number 1.
Hello, that just sounds nasty.
So that does sound really nasty. And on that note, 3, 2, 1, roll them dice. 17.
13.
Oh! Savage Steamboat, WrestleMania 3. I know it's the boring pick.
I'm gonna see that and raise you here in a second, but I like
that
pick.
All right, good. I know it's the boring pick. It's the obvious pick. It's the one that everyone calls back to. It's a classic for a goddamn reason.
Yep.
These kinds of matches were not done at this level at this time. It was the first WrestleMania match to really kind of rise above and show what a match could be. It was ahead of its time. You two smaller guys, if you want to call them that, working a technical masterpiece at a time when you mostly had big guys who could barely move their limbs, flailing around and clubbing each other.
And nobody talks about this unless they're wrestling super nerds, because all anybody thinks about with WrestleMania 3 is Hogan slamming Andre.
Correct. And this is the one that
this match stole the freaking show.
This is the marks that call this match out.
Yeah.
This is like the
Well, I happen to really like wrestling, professional wrestling, as it were.
Yeah.
as opposed to this is the blueprint.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to note that they actually did have this match literally written out move for move. Right? Hammerlock, reversal, throw off the ropes, come back, clothesline. Everything was scripted out to the minutia, even down to the interference at the end. This is another one that had a great build to it, with where Savage was trying to crush Ricky's throat with a ring bell, and then the ring bell came back into effect in this match. George the Animal Steel came into this match at one point to help out Steamboat. And it's, I want to say I would like it more if Savage had won, but at the time, given the build and everything, no, this is the best. And also, this is where we get one of the greatest Macho Man Randy Savage promos of all time with the cream in the coffee.
Yeah,
the cream of the crop. Nobody does it better. Ooh yeah.
This is awkward because none of these are my number one matches.
On balance, off balance, it doesn't matter.
So you think this match is better than Michaels Undertaker at WrestleMania 25? I want to be clear on that. Or I need you to admit that you just did that to me over.
Yes, I did that to fuck you over, but also because it is actually a better match. It's a 5-star match, and Shawn versus Taker is 4.75. Nick,
hard disagree. Hard disagree.
I'm sticking to my guns.
I did have a Savage match on here as well. I did have that one because I can't agree more. Steamboat winning the Intercontinental title out of this as well, and again it being overshadowed by Andre getting slammed by Hogan.
Crazy, and that's back when the Intercontinental was really the workhorse title.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
I had, much to your chagrin, I had Savage Warrior at WrestleMania 7 on here as well. I'm giving an honorable mention, not my pick.
Oh God,
as my other Savage match. Here's why. There was story, like the Macho King. Screwed Warrior at Royal Rumble 91 out of his title shot. So this ended up being a very emotional AF retirement match. And the beauty of it at the end was the reunion with Miss Elizabeth.
Absolutely. Nothing to do with Warrior.
So nothing
whatsoever.
to do with Warrior. Warrior is what you think of Warrior, but from a storyline and Savage perspective, that definitely gets on there. So you've left me pretty much with no choice at this point. I do have some honorable mentions I'd love to talk about to
We have
close
a ton
this
of
out.
honorable mentions. Oh, of course.
WrestleMania 17, Rock versus Stone Cold.
You know what? I can.
If I have to pick one that's up there for me with Taker Michaels at 25, it's Rock Stone Cold at 17. And
even with the ending.
Let's not talk about the ending because that's
okay.
Well, I mean, the ending was one thing. What became of that afterwards?
Okay, fair enough.
All right.
Fair enough. You know what? I'll allow that. Yeah. Okay.
So
I got you.
If you
I see where
look
you're
at WrestleMania 15 was The Rock's first ever main event. WrestleMania 19 was Austin's last. So it was right in the middle of this. It was arguably 17. Again, I'll say it again. If you haven't watched WrestleMania 17, do yourself a favor. It is one of the best, if not the best, WrestleManias. This one's arguably the best. The heel turn sucked, but that moment with Vince at the time blew the freaking doors out of our minds. We had like, whoa!
And
it was
of their
one of those
WrestleMania
kind of
trilogy,
holy shit moments. Like, that would never happen.
yeah. And of their WrestleMania trilogy, I would argue this is the best worked one.
Yeah. Totally.
The one after this where Rock won was good, but I would put that at like third. And the first one just barely is not as good as this one just because it's just more kind of by the books.
Yeah.
And this one, actually, I think they both were better workers at this point.
Because I
So,
did go back
yeah,
and skim
fair
through
enough.
17 last night instead of doing my AEW
bet.
NXT homework like a good boy like I should have.
Yeah, tomorrow's
I
gonna be
do
fun.
have to also call out to kind of put a button on this pick. JR's supreme superlative call, as he is known for.
Yeah.
Stone Cold has sold his soul to Satan himself.
Yeah.
At the end of this.
Son of a bitch!
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm okay putting that one right there beside Taker and
All
Michaels
right.
at 25 for me.
You know what? I fair enough. I can get behind you on that one. That's there's our lists. Nick, your 5 best: Money in the Bank, WrestleMania 21, TLC 2 from WrestleMania 17, Shawn Michaels versus Ric Flair at WrestleMania 24, Austin versus Bret Hart at WrestleMania 13. You son of a bitch.
Was that your number
And
one?
Rock. Yes, it was.
All right.
And Rock versus Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania 17.
Yeah.
My top 5 best: Mick Foley versus Edge, WrestleMania 22. Rock versus Hogan, WrestleMania 18. Daniel Bryan versus Batista versus Orton at WrestleMania 30. And Shawn versus Taker from WrestleMania 25. Number 2 slot, number 1, Savage Steamboat Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania 3. So, a pretty solid list there, I'd have to say. I'm pretty happy with that. What were some of the ones that didn't quite make the list? Some honorable mentions for you in terms of the best WrestleMania matches.
That didn't make either of our lists. I just talked about Savage Warrior with the Miss Elizabeth reunion. I think we either I had Shawn Michaels versus Razor Ramon at WrestleMania 11. It's arguably one of the best ladder matches in history.
Hold on, that's 10. 10.
Is it
11
10?
11 was Diesel. 11 was Shawn Michaels versus Diesel.
Are you sure?
Very sure.
Okay. It was the Michaels versus Razor Ramon match. There was a disputed Intercontinental Championship. Razor Ramon claimed that he had it. Michaels came out to dispute that. And if I'm not mistaken, this was the first ever ladder match at a WrestleMania.
Yes, there's an argument that Bret Hart did the first ever ladder match, but this is considered
At Mania.
This is definitely the first one at Mania.
Yeah.
But they call it one of the first ladder matches of all time. It's been disputed now, but yeah, they like to. Michaels especially likes to say it's the first ever ladder match.
Yeah.
So
that was
fantastic
the only
match.
one that I had that was not mentioned by either of us so far.
I've got Eddie Guerrero versus Kurt Angle at WrestleMania 20. Technical masterpiece.
Yeah.
Barely missed my list. That was definitely an immediate fallback for me. Brock Lesnar versus Kurt Angle at WrestleMania 19. Yes, there was a big botch to the finish, and that sucked. He missed the shooting star press and almost killed himself. Ironic, since Kurt Angle was also working with a bum neck in this match and actually had to have surgery later that week. And yet somehow they were still that is kind of like the Stone Cold and Rock match at 17, where up until that point the match is a 5-star match.
Yeah,
it's an unbelievably good match. Kofi versus Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 35 is so incredibly satisfying. Another one, Kyle, that's a cover, but God, is it good?
I think I've got too much recency bias to appreciate that one fully yet.
It's definitely
what it's going to mean to
bias.
people 20 years from now.
It's going to mean a lot.
Yeah.
That one's gonna stick around.
Yeah.
I've also got to say the Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns versus Seth, with Seth Rollins running in at WrestleMania 31 that was a great match.
Yeah, it was.
With some hard way bleeding before we even had that great cash in. But then, Nick, I fell down a rabbit hole.
Oh boy.
Because I want to ask you something.
Okay.
I need your honest opinion on this, and then we got to get out of here. Do you think there is anybody that has more right to the claim of the title of Mr. WrestleMania than Shawn Michaels?
Undertaker, but he wouldn't want it.
The reason that I don't say Undertaker is Undertaker has, he had 21 WrestleMania appearances in the streak. And then he had the one with Roman Reigns, which was terrible. And then the Boneyard match, which was fun. It's fine.
No, to answer your question outside of that. Nobody has delivered more badass matches at WrestleMania than Shawn Michaels.
This is the thing, is Taker has had a lot of matches at WrestleMania. I would argue less than a quarter of them are all-time great WrestleMania matches. Not matches, WrestleMania matches.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Shawn Michaels. I'm going to run down this really quickly here.
Okay.
He starts off slow with the Rockers, WrestleMania 6 versus Sato and Tanaka. At WrestleMania 7 versus Barbarian and Haku. That's with Marty Jannetty with the Rockers.
Yeah.
He goes solo. He gets Tito Santana at WrestleMania 8 in an underrated match. It's pretty solid. Versus Tatanka at WrestleMania 9. That's the one where he didn't want to lose the title, so he got counted out. And he was starting to play politics, but it's actually a shockingly good match and the best match at WrestleMania 9. WrestleMania 10,
that's not
ladder
saying
match.
Much though.
No.
That was a
WrestleMania
shitty
10, it was a shitty WrestleMania, and he still had the best match.
Yeah.
WrestleMania 10, Razor Ramon ladder match.
Yeah.
WrestleMania 11 versus Diesel, one of his worst singles WrestleMania matches, and it's still pretty damn good. He's able to actually get a good match out of Diesel. He has the Iron Man match with Bret Hart at WrestleMania 12, which, looking back at it now, is a really boring match, but at the time it was revolutionary, and it was incredible. WrestleMania 13 was the one where he was on commentary because he'd lost his smile and didn't want to drop the title to Bret Hart. So he wasn't at WrestleMania 13 except on commentary in the main event. WrestleMania 14 versus Steve Austin with Mike Tyson as a special enforcer. Legendary match.
Yeah.
Right, he comes back after getting healthy again 5 years later. WrestleMania 19 versus Jericho. Another match that barely missed my list.
Same.
He's then in the match with Benoit and Triple H at WrestleMania 20. Versus Kurt Angle at 21.
Did we talk about that one, by the way?
Which one? The triple threat? We talked about the triple threat.
That was on my list. We did talk about it.
Because we were
of the
saying
Benoit
that
stuff.
30 covered it. Yeah. WrestleMania 21 versus Kurt Angle. Incredible match.
Awesome match.
Barely missed my list.
Yep.
He has a match with Mr. McMahon at WrestleMania 22. It's fine. It's better than Bret Hart's Mr. McMahon match at WrestleMania.
At 26, yeah.
Yeah. He then has a great match with John Cena at WrestleMania 23, to be the man, you have to beat the man kind of match. He has the I'm Sorry I Love You match with Flair at 24. He has Taker at 25 and 26. That's his WrestleMania career. He pretty much has all gold.
Yeah.
Very few of those matches none of them were like straight up stinkers.
Yeah. Even
The
Taker
worst
has
you have-
stinkers.
Taker's got several stinkers.
Yeah.
We mentioned them. Taker has a match on my worst match at WrestleMania. Michaels doesn't even come close.
No.
There is no one, in my opinion, more worthy of the title of Mr. WrestleMania than Shawn Michaels.
Agreed.
The man is the greatest performer in WrestleMania history. Hard stop.
Yeah.
Hard stop.
Absolutely.
And that's when I was going through like all the best matches, Shawn Michaels kept popping up. And I was just like, yeah, he's the man. And he was known as Mr. WrestleMania long before he put on half of those great WrestleMania matches.
Right.
He just delivers every time. It's unbelievable.
Funny enough for me, 17 kept coming up. Matches on Mania 17. That's funny because I wanted to talk about something here at the end.
Mm-hmm.
As I was going back through it, I would skip through. I would jump match to match, and there were certain. I would look up the card and then go on the network and look at the Manias, and then jump through look at certain matches.
Sure.
I found something last night that I did not expect, and it was kind of a reinvigoration, if you will, an appreciation for the '90s, and that era of wrestling that we went through. I think when we get too far away from stuff like that, and I'm gonna stand up for a second. I got a foot cramp that sucks. Ow, ow! I gotta put some weight on it. Sitting in this damn chair all day. It's still there. Shit. Sorry guys. I found this reinvigorated love and passion, not just for the Attitude Era, but we talk about it being a golden era of wrestling now that we're in with AEW and NXT and Impact on the rise again. We've got New Japan, firing on all cylinders again. The era of the 90s, there was something magical about that decade of wrestling that I was reminded of it again last night. And I know that a lot of our phenomenal ones are doing throwback chats and stuff like that and watching through some of that older WCW and WWF content from the 90s. But man, it makes me pine for it again. And I hate to be that Attitude Era Mark guy, But I watch modern WWE now, and I just, after doing that last night, I just go, there's no comparison.
Where's the magic?
There's no comparison.
The ferocity of how into it the fans were at the time. But, I'll counter that by saying that one thing I discovered, besides the fact that Shawn Michaels really is Mr. WrestleMania, as I was looking back over all of this, is that, my God, whether it's WrestleMania 30, whether it's WrestleMania 3, whether it's, WrestleMania 36, whatever, when especially at WrestleMania, something about WrestleMania, and it's one of the genius things about it, is it's become such an institution now, and it is so big and so spectacular. It really is like this old, like Roman, huge, gaudy, insane, over-the-top event. But something about framing it in that kind of larger-than-life setup, when things happen there, they do feel bigger. They feel more important. And we always say when wrestling is good, it's the best. When it's at WrestleMania and it's good, it is way better than the best.
Yeah.
That is truly, like, when the big things happen at WrestleMania, it's where the emotions are biggest. It hits the hardest. I can be really invested in a passionate blood match taking place in front of 20 people in a bingo hall, and be really invested and just love it. But man, there is something about having that exact same match in front of 100,000 people, supposedly, with fireworks going off and pomp and circumstance and this huge 100-foot long ramp, that just makes it feel much more epic. They call it the showcase of the immortals, because they're framing it in that way that it makes you feel that and it works.
Yeah,
it does work. I'll throw it out there, and that's especially emphasis on marks.
But when you see two people like Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker, 20 years into their career, coming out and putting on a perfect clinic of a match at 25 in 2009, whenever that was, just holy smokes. It just doesn't get any bigger than that. So it's not just about the pyro. It's not just about the crowds. We're invested. As fans, we're invested in this cast of characters that we've lived with, that have been our entertainment for decades. And whenever they come back, whenever they show that they still got it, whenever they get some kind of comeuppance, we're right there with them. And that's the essence of wrestling. It's the beauty of wrestling. It's the beauty of any sport. It's why people get so into March Madness as they are right now. Mm-hmm. Is that kind of stuff, that the feels of it, right? Sure, It's two great workers out there going out and putting on a great clinic of, executing a theatrical performance, but it's like you said, the pomp and circumstance around it make them feel immortal, make them feel like gods.
Yep.
And I go back and look at the 90s and hell, even the 2000s to an extent, a lot of which I kind of skipped, but there's some phenomenal stuff in the there's some god-awful stuff in the 2000s, specifically in the women's division.
There's some crap in the 90s,
and the invasion
too.
stuff,
There's crap
and
all over the place.
There is some god-awful stuff. The early to mid 90s had some stinkers as well, but there is some really great stuff. And man, we come on this show every week and we talk about Raw was I cannot remember a time when I felt that way about a Raw, when I had all of my friends around and the roaring crowds, each of which had their own poster, and Stone Cold glass shatters and everybody just goes freaking nuclear. I don't remember the last time that's happened in the last decade, if at all. It was truly a lightning in a bottle time frame.
Hardy's returning to WrestleMania.
That's a good one. Thank you.
Yeah. But that's kind of what I want to end on is, when it's good, it's the best. WrestleMania is where it's the best, unless it's Cole versus Lawler, in which case it's truly the worst. So thank everyone for tuning into this today. Thank you all for being patrons. You guys are absolutely amazing. You are the grease in our wheels and the light in our apartments, quite literally.
You're our lightning in our bottle.
Indeed. And you are as great as a truly amazing WrestleMania match. Thank you so much for supporting us. We hope you enjoyed this. We hope you're not too mad at us for some of our picks, but either way, if you're happy with it, let us know in Discord or on Facebook.
Yep.
If you aren't happy with it, you're mad at us, let us know in Discord or on Facebook. Please shoot this out there. We'll probably put these up, at least the list, and everyone can listen to this if they want to become patrons. And maybe we'll do like a little watch along and watch some of the best matches that Nick and I picked sometime before WrestleMania, because it is that season.
Tis the season.
Tis the season. But that's our show for the day, everybody. Thank you again for tuning in. Thanks to everyone who's in Twitch right now. You guys are awesome for showing up.
Oh, I got to call out some last call-outs. I completely missed them. Thank you, guys.
Hit it up.
Kyle, about 20 minutes ago, sorry, Kyle, threw in 100 bits.
Kyle.
Said, actually, no, the Rumble in San Antonio, Taker and HBK were the finalists a year before Mania 25. That I didn't remember. So Rumble from 2008? Am I doing that right? A year before Mania 25. They were the final. Yeah. Okay.
It's a long story. It's like
that whole epic series of Taker Michaels in the late 2000s was fantastic.
We won't include Taker and Kane versus Michaels and Triple H in Saudi. We're not going to include that in the story. No, that's not.
Kyle also said, threw in another 100 bits, said Mickie James versus Trish is an honorable mention for the best women's match ever on a Mania still. Yeah,
I think the triple threat main event was... I think because of the how big it felt might be there too, but yeah, that's definitely at the time especially it was so head and shoulders above anything else they were doing with the women. So
Yep. Thank you, Kyle. Costanza threw in 100 bits, said merchandising,
where the real money from wrestling is made.
Thank you, Chris. Well, there you go, guys. March is in the books. We are about 2 weeks away from WrestleMania now. Oh my God!
Here we go.
2 weeks from this weekend. Here it comes, guys. Thank you guys for being amazing patrons. Thank you guys for showing up here on Twitch and for all of your support month after month. We really do appreciate it. Thank you, guys. But until next time, my name is Nick Howell. You can find me on Twitter at DataCenterDude.
And I am Sir Ian Dangerous. You can find me on Twitter at Sir Ian Dangerous.
But by God!
Would somebody stop the damn match?
This show is part of the Orbital Jigsaw Network. For more episodes, subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher Radio. For details and show notes from each episode, check us out, orbitaljigsaw.com.